Hello to the Limitless Tribe, Facebook and YouTube. Thank you to each and every one of you who is watching this Limitless show live right now, and to everyone who's going to watch it later. And this show began on the 16th of February this year, and it has not merely been a show because it has been a part of a much larger movement, the Limitless movement, through which I want to impact at least 10 million lives by the end of 2030. Whereas we proceed, I have tried to keep this show as limitless as possible, calling guests from different countries, different occupations, cultures, different age groups, but who each and every one of them who has broken the shackles of some conventional or societal norms and explored themselves to be their best version, inspiring you and putting you on fire to break your own limitations. So, my today's guest on this 14th episode of the Limitless Show is Podeschi, who is an award winning vegan naturopath and wellness empowerment coach who is also known as the Gut Guy. Fed loves to empower people around the world to resolve their gut health conditions naturally so that they can feel amazing body, mind, and soul. He is based in Swansea, UK, where alongside running his coaching business, he also manufactures and distributes his amazing range of kombucha. He also has been recently an awardee of Health and Wellbeing Coach 2021. So now before I bring him on, let me, also show an introductory video of Ped.
5 years ago, I was overweight, smoking, surviving on fast food, and addicted to sugar. My health was deteriorating by the day until finally I collapsed. I struggled on with chronic conditions. Why am I telling you this? Because I turned it around. It took time and dedication, but I found my path. I started my own health business, focusing on love and healing. I discovered kombucha and its amazing health benefits. I healed myself, which means you can do it too. This is how we do. You've never felt so good.
Wonderful. Please bring him on with a round of applause, guys. Hey, Ped, welcome to the Limitless Show.
Hello, Anush. How are you
Namaste
doing?
and hello to you.
Namaste to you.
Great to
How are you
have
doing
you
today?
here. Doing absolutely fantastic and fabulous. So, Fed, let's get started with your story because your story is super, super, super inspiring. You have actually broken a lot of barriers. So, why don't you, introduce yourself to the audience through your story?
Sure. So, well, first of all, thank you for having me here. Truly grateful, for this opportunity, and hopefully to bring a little bit of inspiration to people that might be facing perhaps some difficulties in their lives and thinking about, what they can do to improve their health and well-being, or sometimes just limiting beliefs that they might have, and they kind of are stopping them from achieving their potential. I certainly have been there, and I had my fair share of issues in my life. I can tell you that. So maybe I should start from the very beginning. So I was born in the Republic of San Marino, which is a tiny place in the middle of Italy. It's an independent republic. If you haven't come across it, just go and Google it because it is absolutely stunning, like beautiful place. And but nevertheless, it is also a small place. It's about 35,000 people. Well, 34,999, I guess, because one is out of there. But I like to think that maybe I'm the one that makes a difference, So I've always brought up in a fairly normal sort of family. with a very working class background, so I wouldn't say that we were poor, but we weren't rich, so we just had a very standard life where my parents got married very young, so they were 15 and 18 when they got married, and started a family so early meant that they worked, and I was looked after by my grandparents. And there was also a degree of religion as well, because obviously in Italy the Catholic Church is still very present, and of course I was baptized, and I went to Sunday school and to church indeed, and I would say that I was also quite religious for quite a long time in my life, and so I think that I developed quite early in my life a sense of being different. But particularly with the fact that I am gay, and at the time I didn't know what that meant, because I mean, I wasn't born in the dark ages, but I was born in 1978, and the internet didn't really appear until the 90s. So for me, it was very difficult to kind of have an idea that other gay people existed, so I didn't have role models, I didn't have people that I could talk to, and it was very kind of isolating, I guess, because I felt that there was something not quite right with me, and I didn't know what it was, so I kind of ended up having all sorts of thoughts about not being normal, being a freak, not belonging, whether it was at one point I even thought that it might have been the spirit of a woman that reincarnated in me, because obviously I had this attraction towards men instead of women, so maybe I thought, oh, that could mean that maybe I was supposed to be a woman, I don't know, so all sorts of really difficult thoughts, especially at such a young age, without any guidance. And I ended up being very drawn, as I said, to religion, and I felt that I had my calling, to become a priest. So I ended up going to church a lot, and I had my spiritual guide that was my priest, my local priest at the time, and obviously I did a lot of self-exploration and a lot of talking about what my feelings were at the time, and I remember opening up to my priest at the time, and it was I was 16 at the time, and I ended up during confession speaking to him and just saying to him that I had I had some thoughts about men, and that I was attracted to men, although I had not done anything. I'd never been with a man at that point, and I was faced with a very difficult conversation, because my priest told me that I would burn in hell.
Wow. You went looking for actually some solicitation and counseling, and this is what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and and especially when you turn to someone that you kind of regard as a guide, spiritual guide, you would expect some understanding, some compassion.
Yes.
And I didn't get that. I got complete rejection very, very quickly, and that kind of threw me into a very, very dark point, a dark period of my life, because I felt that it wasn't just the words of the priest; it was the words of the church and the words of God. Because as a representative of God, he said things that were very, very deep for me. So I kind of lost my religion at that point. I lost a lot of what was my support, and there was other stuff going on at the same time, because I guess with the fact that I didn't feel right, I didn't. There was a lot of unhappiness, a lot of loneliness, because obviously I didn't know who to turn to, and one of the things that I turned to was food. I always loved food. Again, I was brought up in Italy, where food, is comes with the culture. Plus, my grandmother and my mother and a lot of other people in my family worked in restaurants and being chefs. So I was surrounded with amazing food, and of course I enjoyed it. But I think it became almost a compulsion, because I would go and eat things that would satisfy me, because emotionally I wasn't feeling happy. So I put on weight. and so I had throughout my childhood I was bullied really, really badly for being gay, although I didn't know that I didn't know what that meant, and also for being overweight. So literally I would, sometimes I would walk into a classroom, and I would find the other children around tables, and like laughing and joking, and then I would go and have a look, because obviously I wanted to be part of the fun, and then I realized that I actually was the subject of the fun. So they were drawing things about me, and writing arrows with bad names, pointing at the drawing, so I just felt completely alone. I had no friends. I was a bookworm. So I really well excelled at my studies, because that's all I had. So it was food and studying. There were the two things that kept me going. I did have some friends. I don't know how I would describe those friendships at the time, because maybe they were just convenient, because they wouldn't have been maybe my friends of choice. It was just what I had available to me. So certainly I did not feel happy. On top of that, once I actually did understand my feelings, and came out to my family, I had really a negative reaction from a lot of people. In particular, my father, who is still struggling with it, and just a completely different mentality. But obviously, words that are spoken in anger might be just in the spur of the moment, but kind of stuck with me. So things about not being good enough, maybe maybe my body parts not working properly, or maybe even things like being told that I would never have a family, or that I would never have children. Why would I choose a life like that? And it wasn't choice. It was part of being me, and all of a sudden I was being told not to be myself. That to make other people happy, I needed to be someone else. So I got to that point where it was despair. I didn't know who to turn to, and I just felt really alone. I felt I had no hope, no future. And yeah, and basically just got to the point where I tried to commit suicide twice, and I was very lucky, to not have died in that process. So it would have been really tragic for a lot of people, and I don't think that a lot of people even know that that side of me is something that obviously I overcome and I kind of left behind. Plus it wasn't that long after that I moved to the UK. So I finished my studies when I was 18. By that point, I was a little bit more independent, because I passed my driving test. I had been to the UK at the age of 18 for 1 month to study English. And of course, that was the longest time that I had away from my reality. So I was in a foreign country where nobody knew me, apart from the other students that I traveled with. But I still had a lot of independence, a lot of opportunities to meet new people. There was a gay scene as well, where I didn't have to hide. I didn't have to worry about I don't know, things like being beaten up. It was still really difficult even at that point for gay people. But it felt really liberating to be somewhere where I could have a conversation without feeling judged. And I kind of felt like, wow, I can be anyone. I can be anything I want to be. It wasn't quite the same as what I mean now, but back then I kind of felt like I can pretend. I can be literally. I can put as many masks as I want. I can I can turn into any person. So if I want to go and tell people that I came from a rich family, yeah, then obviously I could say that. If I wanted to say that I had a girlfriend back home, I could. Or if I wanted to say that I had a boyfriend, I could. Nobody knew me, so I could do anything. And I kind of started again my life in a way that was more what I wanted it to be, and certainly felt happier. But I still had difficulties because I was in university full time. I was in a relationship with a man. About 3 weeks after I moved to the UK, I started this relationship which lasted 4 years, and in that process, the relationship became abusive, emotionally and financially, and physically in the end. So again, although I was feeling happy with the person that I was becoming, I found myself alone again, and stuck in a situation that was very negative, very toxic, and I felt really powerless. But things turned. Eventually, I plucked the courage to step away from the relationship. The relationship became really nasty at that point, and I ended up having to call the police to come and help me. And it was again going back to the financial part. There was when we bought a house together 2 years before the end of the relationship. We ended up buying the house, but my partner at the time was on benefits, so he didn't have an income. I was working full time and I was in university full time. I don't even know how I did that back then, because it's certainly something that I don't know. Well, I do have a very busy lifestyle now, but at the time it was out of necessity. Now it's out of choice.
Right.
It was really, really intense. And, so I would work like crazy hours and be in university. And, so I had an income and we decided to buy a house. So because I was from San Marino, I couldn't have a mortgage in my name, which meant that we took a mortgage out in my partner's name. And although I paid the deposit, I made all the payments, I paid all the bills and all of that, the house was actually in his name. So when I called
Oh,
to my rescue, the police, obviously asked what was going on, and my ex-partner said, he's my lodger. I want him out of here, and he hasn't paid rent or pay bills, and I just want him out. So the police asked me. Obviously, I told my version of the event, and I explained, what the reality was. But they said, well, ultimately the house is in his name, so you need to leave. And so I became homeless in that
my
process.
goodness.
So it was just one thing after another, and it kind of, now looking back, yes, it was really, really difficult, but I can only be grateful, for what happened to me, because now I see those very negative things as gifts, because it's where I cut my teeth, where I really tested, my tenacity, my ability to focus on the positive, on the lessons learned, on my future, and just have that drive to keep going, and to kind of better myself, and yeah, to pull through, no matter what happened to me.
Right.
And yeah, so that was I'd say probably the beginning, if you want, of a new era. Still there was stuff that happened following that. I still had some bad relationships, because I guess you get into a pattern, sometimes as well, that is difficult
Yes.
to break away from. I had difficulties with, the end of that relationship meant that the Home Office tried to deport me, because my visa was based on the relationship that I had. So I ended up trying to look at, how I could argue that I was entitled to stay in the UK. And I took the Home Office to court, because I found out at the time that there was a piece of law that basically said that if it was a woman that was victim of domestic violence, and she wasn't at fault, then she had a right to stay. Obviously, as a gay person, there was no equivalent law, and there wasn't a law for men either, victim of female or domestic violence, because that exists as well.
Right.
But I basically used this discriminatory law essentially as an argument for me. And I said, that I was a victim of domestic violence. I did have support from my university tutor that had offered me some support. I went to a counselor service, so I had evidence that this was actual reality, wasn't me fabricating the facts, and I managed to win, I won my case to stay in the UK. Then I also had another legal battle, to try and get my money back from my home, and again, didn't have money at the time, so I went and read the legislation, and I put in an application into the court, and I represented myself, and I managed to get what was my my half of the property at the time. Although I didn't feel that it was entitled to his half because I paid everything myself, but I still just wanted to prove a point, and I thought, even if I get half, at least I got something. But I still won the case myself, and yeah, and it kind of like still stuff for being gay, whether it was just a nasty person that actually did bully many other people as well, and so a job after another, a relationship after another, just a lot of things kind of snowballed constantly, and as much as all of this, like I said, there was a lot of negativity. I've always had a very strong spirit, so I've always had this focus, that one day things would get better, and that I actually would be able to make something of myself. And I ended up getting into a job where actually I got into quite a few jobs that kind of strengthened my self-belief. So when I got into better positions and getting promoted, it just really gave me a sense of, okay, I'm going in the right direction. So little wins, bit by bit, just
Yes.
added to that positivity. And I ended up getting a job with a company, a charity that campaigned for gay rights in the UK. And that really gave me a very strong sense of being okay. Being gay, I was enough. I didn't need to be anyone else. It also gave me the strength to fight for my rights, because at the time there was still a lot of discrimination, and obviously I was involved in a lot of campaigns, to improve legislation in the UK. And eventually, when I moved from that charity, I ended up setting up a charity myself. That was based in Wales. It no longer exists, but it was a helpline that helped gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people. And I still did a lot of campaigning, a lot of legal casework, because obviously I learned the legislation, and I was able then to help people representing themselves in tribunals and in courts. And so I started getting successes, and things that were happening that really made me feel happy, made me feel strong, made me feel empowered, to achieve more. And I guess probably one of the well, around that time there was a lot of stuff that happened that was amazing. It was really a turning point. But I ended up getting involved in a campaign to get gay marriage through in the UK. And after that legislation got approved, I was the first gay person in Wales to get married, and also back in San Marino, although there was no legislation there, I was the first person
Right.
in San Marino to get married to a man.
Right.
So there was a lot of press. There was a lot of positive and negative things, because again, although I stepped away from San Marino, the people that I left behind still had the same mentality. So there was still a lot of negativity in terms of comments, what was going on in the public domain, in the media, that affected my family and friends as well. But I kind of was removed from that, but I wanted to still carry on with my work, to campaign, to improve my life, and also to become more of a role model and inspire other people.
Right.
And I ended up getting appointed as a diplomat by my country. So I was an honorary consul of the Republic of San Marino in Wales, and which obviously gave me an amazing sense of achievement and gratitude, to my country, to recognize the fact that even though I was gay and came from, this really negative sort of environment, I still managed to achieve something that most people don't, and
Yes.
I felt okay. So I managed to get married, one of the things that I was told that I would never do.
Right.
And also now I was a diplomat, so I felt like, wow, I'm strong, I'm powerful.
Yes.
I've got, the fire in me. And,
Yes.
and so there was another little bit of a turning point during that time was that obviously I was still campaigning for gay rights, and in 2007, there was at the time Pope Ratzinger was basically made a statement around Christmas time, where
Mhm.
basically he said that the gay people were an abomination of nature, and they were blurring the roles between men and women, and the marriage was a sacred thing only, for a heterosexual couple. And I felt that those words were very discriminatory. I felt, why are you
Yeah.
attacking my right to love someone
Right.
else?
Yes.
So as a campaigner, I issued a press release in the UK and also back at home in San Marino, where I said that I felt that the words of the Pope were discriminatory, and same as the head of a company or the head of any organization where discrimination might happen within the company, I felt that the head of a state is responsible to protect its citizens from discrimination. So I was basically calling for all the heads of states to tackle the words of the Pope, because I said, if I feel this wrong because of what someone is saying, surely all your citizens that are also gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or come from any other denomination that may feel discriminated, it's not right, to kind of have these feelings, so someone needs to do something. And
Yes.
on top of that, maybe slightly controversial, but one of the things that I said in that statement was that I felt the words of the Pope not only were discriminatory, but that his actions were very similar to what Hitler did, because the propaganda that goes with words that are being spoken, yet perhaps the Pope did not mean any harm and might not have wanted any gay person to feel discriminated or to feel attacked or indeed to be physically attacked. But other people, extremists, will interpret those words and do what they feel,
Right. Right.
so
They'll feel supported. Yeah.
yeah, the propaganda can be really, really difficult. Sometimes it causes bigger problems
Yes.
than the actual actions. And of course, what I didn't realize at that point is that as a diplomat, this was picked up by the press as not the campaigner spoke out against the Pope, but this was like the diplomat is now attacking the Pope. So it was front page news, not in the UK but in San Marino. And the head of state at the time was really angry and obviously got in touch to to basically ask for clarifications. And I did say, I did not issue this as a diplomat. I issued this as a campaigner, which is my job. This is what I do for a living. So it's hard for me not to say these things because it's what I do for a living. And nevertheless, she said, you're not allowed to do these things. So anyway, that was kind of a smack on the wrist. So I was told off and told not to do it again. And a few months later, so this was December, in February, I was then invited by the Prime Minister of the UK at the time. It was Gordon Brown. And it was to basically, it was a celebration. It was a Downing Street to celebrate LGBT History Month and all the achievements that people like me, campaigners, as well as famous people in the public domain who were gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender, were basically invited to this reception, to celebrate all the work that we had done. And so I thought, because of the controversy that had just happened, I thought I'll get in touch with my Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and inform them that I've had this invite. And I was told not to go to this ceremony, to this celebration. And so I said, what is the problem here? Because there's nothing negative. This is an achievement. This is a positive message, even for anyone in San Marino, never mind gay people in San Marino, but people that come from my country. I thought it's amazing to know that one person has actually been invited to Downing Street. It's a massive thing.
Yes.
And they were
Yes.
like, no, you're not allowed to go, and you're not to give any statement to the press. So I asked for the reasons, because I said, what is the problem with people knowing that I would like to go to this, beside the fact that I want to go because it's a personal achievement, and they would not give me an explanation. So I mean, I knew, because obviously, it was still a very discriminatory country, and also the Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs at the time, there's some of the things that were said, really much pointed me in the direction that she was not happy with giving support to gay people in general. So anyway, I basically said, if you're not going to clarify what has happened here, I'm going to go to this reception. If you're not giving me a reason why I should not go, and I will give a statement to the press. I will not give it as a diplomat, but just saying that someone from San Marino got invited to Downing Street, and that's what happened. Essentially, I did go because I didn't have an explanation, and matter of days, a couple of days after, I was sent a letter to say that I was no longer a diplomat, which
Okay.
was sad, but it kind of, I think for me, it was also an achievement that, I stood up for myself. I stood up for my rights,
Yes.
for what I thought
Yes.
the right to do.
Yes.
So, I still felt that I needed to tackle this, so I also went to a kind of sort of almost like a tribunal process with the government of San Marino to look at what had happened, because I thought that it was discriminatory. And for the first time in the history of this kind of tribunal, the person, the chair of the panel that looked at my case, said that they were not going to rule. So they decided that they weren't going to make a decision, because they felt that they had evidence on both sides that there was some stuff going on, but they didn't want, nobody there wants to speak out against the head of state, because of course they're all employed
Right.
by the head of state. Is a small country, everyone knows each other,
Right.
so if you
Right.
discrimination and someone is supporting your case, then they could lose their job, essentially. So
Yes.
in itself, the fact that they actually deliberated that they would not deliberate, spoke
Mm-hmm.
volumes. And I was happy with that. But that was, I think that those were the major turning points in terms of like what I kind of had going on at the time. I think, yes, there was controversy, but I felt alive. I felt like, oh my gosh, regardless of all of this happening, and I'm sorry if it sounds so tragic and negative. Yeah, I had a lot of stuff going on, like I'm sure lots of other people have, and a lot of people have it worse than what I had. But it was just such an amazing, inspired journey, where I felt guided. I felt this fire in me, to keep going and keep improving my situation. And like I said, I got married, so there was obviously some positives there. Then obviously decided that I wanted to have a family, and started fostering. And now I have two children that have been with me for 6 years. They call me dad. So I kind of smashed all those things, all those limiting beliefs that I was told, that I would never achieve those things that I was told, I would never accomplish, in my
Right.
life.
Right.
And yeah, and ultimately, I think that going back to what I said earlier on about these masks that I was putting on, thinking, yeah, I could be anything and anyone that I wanted to be. I actually now feel very different about that, and what I believe is that actually, instead of putting these masks on, what I did was actually peeling them off and becoming
Yes.
true self.
True
So
self. Yes.
what I've learned from that is that I've always been fine. I've always been enough. I've always been strong. I've always been motivated, and I've always been capable of achieving anything that I set out to do.
So lovely. So beautiful. And how old are your children that you are a foster father to?
Yeah, so I have two children. One is about to turn 13, and the other one is 11. And like I said, they've been here for 6 years. Not an easy journey. Fostering, it can be difficult, because obviously children come from a very sometimes difficult backgrounds, and
Yes.
of course, when you take that on, you have to take the good with the bad. There are good days, there are
Yes.
bad days,
Yes.
and obviously, what I try to do, if nothing else, is to teach them the same lessons that I learned. Regardless of your past, your traumas, anything that you had, in your life. If you let your past dictate your future, then it's really, really easy to wallow in despair and just think, I'll never do anything. But I try every day to explain to my children that, that these are lessons, that these are gifts, that they can really turn around, their situation. And we've done amazing things, in the time that they've been with me. We traveled, to amazing places. We went to India, we went to the Caribbeans, we went on cruises. I went to Spain, just me with the two boys. I ended up divorcing with my partner after 4 years of marriage. And so obviously things have been testing, again, but
Yes.
it's always, kind of like the lesson learned. You get to this,
Yes.
to this fork in your path, and you think, you could go one way or another. And there are difficult decisions to make, but there are those things that push you forward. Sometimes, I don't see problems as obstacles. For me, problems, things that happen are always, the thinking time, where you can reflect on what is happening, and
Yes.
obviously
Yes.
you can adjust your course of action or change your direction.
Yes, yes. That's the way we move forward. Failure is never final, and we fine tune till we find the right way. So, and you are a live example of that. Wow, what a
Absolutely.
spirit you have.
Thank you so much, and I do feel it, every day, in the from the moment I wake up. It's, yeah, of course I have sometimes terrible days, like everyone, where everything goes wrong, and it can be from, I don't know, from getting out of bed and tripping over a sock that you left there, and then you go down the stairs and you step over a piece of Lego that the kids have left in the way, and you're hurting, and then everything spirals, and everything is negative in that day. But I've learned that it's a switch. It's something that we all have in our brain. I give the example to my customers, to my tribe, the lovely people that follow my work. That if you picture yourself on one of those days where you feel all negative and grumpy, and all of a sudden there's a knock on your door, and you don't know who it is. So you might look not at your best, and you're not in the best frame of mind. But as you're walking towards the door, you start seeing through the window the shape of someone that you think looks familiar, and you open the door, and is someone in your family, or your best friend, or someone that you haven't seen for a while. And all of a sudden your face changes, and you're happy to see this person, and everything that has happened is kind of paled into insignificance. And if you learn, because this is a skill, if you learn to practice how that switch can happen,
Yes,
if you recognize what made you go from being grumpy to being happy, which is a
right.
state of mind, you can choose your happiness every day, every single
Every
day.
moment. Yes,
Yeah, I absolutely. Like, I think that being, if you live your life through a negative filter, everything that happens to you is going to be negative. The moment that you wake up, I practice gratitude. So I love to do an exercise in the morning where I think about three things that I'm grateful for in my life. I really feel it in my heart, as a meditation. So I really concentrate on three moments. Sometimes they're the same things, sometimes something else comes up as I'm thinking. Inevitably, because I've done this for so long, I feel so attached to these experiences of gratitude that I would say that the majority of the times that I do this exercise, I end up crying out of joy, because I think about these amazing things that have happened in my life. And so I don't think about the negatives. As one of my gurus is Tony Robbins, and one of his sentences there, or sayings, is that where focus goes, energy flows. So
Yes.
if you focus on the negatives, everything is negative because you're giving it energy. The moment that
Right.
you start focusing on the positives, your life turns around and you have a very different experience. And like I said, when I do this and I start thinking about those things that I'm grateful for, my I feel a different energy in me. I feel happy. I feel that I can conquer the world, that I got more energy to give to other people. And in fact, I picture this. I actually send my gratitude and my love to the universe, to everyone that might need, some guidance, some support, some
Right.
love in their life, even if they've never met me, even if they
Yes.
are somewhere else in the world, yeah, that just gives me the best start in my day. And when you're grateful, it's really really difficult to be pissed off. Yeah, it's
Yes.
just like the two
That's
don't
the
match,
truth.
so yeah.
Yes.
I think there is one of the secrets of life.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely no doubt about it. And when we learn that, we can instantly turn our life around, actually, working on our state, being in the high state.
Yeah, and resonating with with things that are important. I mean, we take some things for granted, about, like, our body, the way that it works. We breathe, our heart beats, we blink, our saliva happens by itself. All of this stuff, is our body is a magic machine, that can
Right.
capable of so much, and yet we
Right.
neglect it. Same as we neglect our environment, nature that is around us. We don't appreciate the sun. We complain about the rain. And it's like all of this stuff is given to us to
Right.
appreciate, to enjoy.
Yes.
And yeah, and I feel that when we go back to these connections and we focus on on ourselves, on what is important, on what makes us feel happy, on the like I said, the connection with nature, for me is vital. I love, especially if I had a difficult day, I love to go for a walk. I celebrate the full moons, so every full moon you'll find me walking during the night, because I just want to
Right.
absorb that energy. I'm very often barefoot, so that I can feel the ground, that I walk on.
Wow.
um,
Right.
so these things, that make you feel alive because you've got a connection, so it's no longer that disconnected, that lonely place that I was, when I was back a younger person and having all this negativity around me. I just like to surround myself with the comforts, which come from, the real uh, planet, and and everything that we have around, not the television programs, not the
Yes.
materialistic
Yes.
stuff, because that comes and goes, but what we are
Yes.
connected with is the environment that we are in and the people that we have around us, and certainly
Yes.
the love that connects us all.
Wow, what a deep insight. I mean, you have just given something so deep to the people, that when you're connected to the nature, everything that God has given us, when you are really deep rootly, connected to everything, and the love that comes from people, sharing with people, that is so vibrant and so tremendous. And rather than just getting attached to all the material pleasures of life, just the television or the mobile or all these things. So I think everyone needs to connect to nature. That is so true. So if you were to, I mean, if you were given an opportunity or an option to rewrite your life from scratch, Fed, would you want to change anything in your life? If there is anything you would want to change, what would it be?
I wouldn't change anything in my life. I really, really, I love the life that I have. All those experiences have taken me to where I am now and have made me the person that I
Yes.
am. So if
Right.
I had not had that, I probably would be still stuck in San Marino in a job that I hate, and eating wrong foods and having bad relationships.
Right.
So all of these kinks and turns in my path have helped me get in here. um, I now know that even in my work, I've got a system, which is the system that I use with my clients as well, and I call them my 7 secrets to healing your gut and feeling amazing. And my 7 secrets that I help to unlock, because I'm here to share my journey, my experience, my knowledge. They're very basic things. They are sleep. They are
Right.
your sexuality, hormones, movement, that relationships, your nutrition, your mindset, your personal development. Because if you don't grow, you're dead. You've got to keep looking at new opportunities to learn, new stuff in your life,
Yes.
experience new things. And of course, spirituality, your connection to the divine, to the universe,
Yes.
to the people that you have around. These are
Yes.
fundamental part of our life, and they're the most neglected often because we focus on what is happening to us daily. So I've had a
Yes.
bill, I don't have the money to pay it, so I'm stressed about it. But when I go back, actually, have I had a good rest last night? Did I sleep properly? Have I fed myself nutritious food that actually nourishes my body?
Right.
I've got a solid relationship with my partner, or with the people,
Right.
with friends around me. When I look after all of these things, then being stressed about money is not an issue, because I'm better equipped to know that the universe will guide me. The
Yes.
universe will provide, and the moment that I'm positive, I will find a solution. If I'm
Yes.
negative, I will worry about the money that I don't have. If I'm
Yes.
positive, I'll think about how can I pay this. I
Yes.
so it's kind of, it's mindset, it is state, and it's a very simple approach. And of course, it takes diligence, it takes practice, it keeps you need to keep practicing these things to perfect yourself, and to make sure that you keep on doing it. And like I said, I still get my bad days, regardless of doing this. So a lot of people that I am in touch with, especially when they're at the beginning, they still have a journey ahead, and to get perhaps to where I am. And I got also a lot of people that I'm in touch with that are way far more ahead than me, but they're my inspiration. And and equally, I have to say, because there's something very important here, I'm equally inspired by the people that are behind me, because the people that are behind me are the energy, are the source that pushes me to want to do more, to want to
Yes.
learn more,
Correct.
so that I can serve, so that I can give more of myself and what I've learned during this journey. So I'm so grateful for for the people that connect with me and look up to me. And sometimes I still think, who am I to be here and to inspire people, or to give my advice. But I certainly have learned a lot in my process, and even if it is very little in comparison to other people out there, I know that what I've done and what I do, in my work, has changed lives. As I've, the feedback that I get, the love that I receive on a daily basis from my tribe, and my employees, colleagues that are not, I don't employ them, I work
Right.
with, is
Right.
always inspiring, and yeah, it makes me feel amazing.
Wow, wonderful. So another thing is, I mean, I know that you had that small town mentality which was there in San Marino that was kind of holding you back from being yourself. But even when you shared your story, when you came to the UK, you did face a lot of difficulties over there as well. You had to, do a lot of things to basically reclaim your right back to being who you are. So, was it really the small town mentality that was holding you back in San Marino and not here? Is that difference between a city or a big nation or a small town, or is it something else? What was the difference between both the places?
I think that personally, the small place mentality can be very limiting,
Hmm.
because when you come from that sort of background, you feel that your choices are limited, especially because there's maybe more rules to the game,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
your family maybe is more oppressive, and and they're more on top of you as a family, not just your parents, but it's kind of like
Right.
family mentality. And then there's the village mentality, to the extent that when I lived back there, sometimes literally I could get to work, and by the time I got to work, people would know already what I had for breakfast. And I'm just like, how do you know? Like, literally, I didn't speak to anyone. So like,
That's interesting.
yeah, so like, or or people know about your health conditions, because because someone knows your doctor. The doctor is not kept confidential. They chatted. It's just like,
Right.
how, you're not supposed to know. This is my life. But so I think that there are limitations when it comes to coming from a small place. However,
Mhm.
when it comes to being on in a big place, by by contrast, there's also the opposite, because when you're not connected, because when I came to the UK, I didn't know anyone. So like, instead of knowing everyone, I didn't know anyone this side.
Anyone.
And then it's like, okay, so I have no rules. I can make
Right.
my,
You
okay.
can make your own rules. Yeah.
And that can be, although it can be inspirational and it can push you forward the way that it did for me, I can see how
Hmm.
that could be also limiting and scary for other people that need that support of the family, or the rules, to the game, to be able to play safely. So I guess that there are challenges both ways. But what I would say that is the most important part here, is going back, as I said, to your roots, and is about understanding yourself and being your
Yes.
true self. So whether you are in a limiting environment, or whether it is
Yes.
a liberating environment, like the two opposites can be, if you are your true self, so if I had been as empowered as I feel now back in San Marino in the day, because I did the work that I do now in back in history, I might have not left San Marino. I might have been happy. I might have had a relationship, and a family with a guy out there,
Yes.
now, and obviously,
Yes.
my path became different, because obviously I needed to break away from that. And equally, in a big place, you can get lost. When you got too much freedom, you can go in so many different
Yes.
directions, but it doesn't mean that you have one path that you follow for your mission. So I think that, like I said, yeah, there can be challenges, but the moment that I felt ultimately that I understood that I was fine, that I was enough, that I had plenty of love in my family. Because let's not shy away from this. I think that there's one of the biggest plagues on earth is people not feeling loved. Yeah, people feeling that they're not worthy of being loved, because maybe they've been hurt, or maybe because of how they've been treated, or what they've been told when they were kids. There's this big massive plague of feeling disconnected and alone. And I can tell you, it's probably one of the things that has affected me the most in my life, because obviously, my parents worked, so I didn't feel that
Right.
connection from my parents.
Right.
I didn't feel love from my friends in school, because I was being bullied. I didn't feel
Right.
love from my colleagues, because I was bullied at work as well. So kind of this is a theme. And I think that when you start looking at this being a problem for so many people that I talk to, I would like to say, without a shadow of the doubt, you are love yourself, as in you are surrounded by love. The very fact that you are on this planet, is it came from an act of love, the majority of
Yes.
the time. So your
Yes.
parents wanted you, your family would have cherished you. Yeah,
Yes.
you might have argued with your brothers, but I'm sure that deep down there's love and affection with your siblings. When it
Right.
comes to with your colleagues, perhaps you don't get on with some, but I'm sure that you get on with others. In the work that you do, you might feel you're just doing a job, and yet you're impacting on lives every day. Even outside of work, you might help someone with their shopping, or you might pick up I don't know, 5 pounds from the floor that someone has dropped, and you're giving it back, or giving it to someone else. you know
Right.
these are all acts of love. Yeah, and
Right. Right.
you do this, people do it towards you. But our brain is trained for the negative, so we always look at the worst side. Yeah, we always look
Right.
at the things that we don't want. Okay, when we
Yes.
start focusing on the things that we have, and practice that
Yes.
gratitude, and we become more aware of the things that we do have around us, we really discover that we have been loved all the time, and that we can tap into this source of energy to really help us, overcome those difficulties, and to give the best
Hmm.
of ourselves every day.
Yes. Yes. You are so articulate with everything that you're saying. I mean, you're so well able to kind of express everything that you have felt along while you have been on your way to the place where you are right now. It's beautiful articulation, because uh, it's very important for us to also express what we have felt all along and what we feel right now, and that kind of helps the other people as well.
Hmm.
So now,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Fred.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say that it is, like I said, those things that I mentioned, those 7 areas of our lives. I use in again in my work. I associate these areas of life with the seven chakras. So the energy vortices that we have on our body, and they're obviously
Right,
to different energies, to different organs, to different emotions. And
right.
when you create that connection and you start really looking into it, for me, when we are not living our true life, when we're not being ourselves, we have blockages. We create blockages
Yes,
eventually
yes.
will manifest in the physical. So that's where we end up with disease, with illnesses, with
Right,
conditions that are not.
right.
So when we start addressing this, and we fulfill our potential by unblocking these things
Yes,
that are affecting us, then we really transform and feel insanely, amazingly happy.
yes. And that is limitlessness. When you are not blocking yourself, when you are being yourself, you're accepting yourself the way you are, not bothering about what others think about you, and you completely explore everything that you are. When you embrace yourself, yes, such so simply put, Fed, you have put it so simple. You will remove all the blockages from your system. You will truly, liberate yourself. So, so, so true. We are always thinking about what other people think about us, and what will the society say, what will our parents say, what will our best friends say, our colleagues say. Oh my God. And we keep filling these blockages into our systems, our chakras, and they manifest into different diseases, different problems.
Yeah,
So
and this is knowledge that has been around us forever. When you look at the chakra systems, whether it's chakra systems, whether you want to look at Chinese medicine, we're talking about 2,000 years, and also in religion, yeah, because when we're talking about the divine spirit, of God or Allah or whatever you want to believe, we're talking about energy. We are talking
yes,
energy, yeah. So this has
yes,
been around us for donkeys years, and yet is disregarded. It's like we need to tap back into our origins, and if we have wisdom that comes from these sources that we have with history and with governments and with rules, we've learned to shut it down. We need to bring it back. We really need to tap, because energy is really is the source of life, is what keeps us motivated, is what keeps us happy, and yeah, it is that simple. It's just that we have tuned it out so much, and disconnected in our current
yes.
reality, so we really need to go back to our roots, to nature, and to feeling the energy that we have around us.
Yes, if we had been doing it, I think this COVID outbreak wouldn't have happened. If we were aligned to our energies and to nature, the nature would not have revolted back in the form of COVID. This is a pure reflection of what we have done with ourselves and the nature. So we have exploited our own self and the nature.
Absolutely. And let me I don't really go and talk much about what is happening today with COVID, because I think that whichever side of the argument you want to side with, whether you want to look at the practicalities of a virus, or whether you want to look at the conspiracy theories that people have, there's obviously so many opinions and so many arguments. I believe, again, that where focus goes, energy flows. And personally,
Yes,
my focus is on the healing, is on the
yes,
energy, the happy stuff. So whatever goes on, around what we have in the world around us, I think that when we focus on ourselves and do this practice, what I just talked about, and tap into the positive side, and when we look after our body, because we're sleeping properly, we're eating properly, and all of these things, we're
Yes.
not going to be affected, and we're not going to worry that something wrong or bad is going to happen to us,
Yes.
because we know
Yes.
that it's not, because we look after
It's not.
ourselves.
Yes, yes. When we are looking after ourselves, we know. And when we think negative, when we are fearful, when we are afraid that it's going to hit us, that's the time we are manifesting it in our lives. So it's about just taking care of our physical and mental energies and making sure that we are positive in all the directions. Yeah, so true. So would you also like to share, Fed, about, since you are a gut guy, so, would you like to share with the people what exactly is gut health all about? And I mean, do you ask them to do any kind of tests to find out if they have gut health issues, or what are the things that you and what kind of information does your client need to share with you for you to understand what it is all about? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, there's I mean, I can talk about this forever, but because obviously I find this part of my work is fascinating. Normally, I mean, there's very different ways of going about it. As a qualified naturopath, obviously there are scientific routes where you can do tests, to check what is going on with your
Yes.
microbiome. Obviously, just to give you a very, very tiny insight, obviously we do have a mouth, an esophagus. If we go into our stomach, a small intestine, large intestine, rectum, so that is, we eat our food, it gets processed, it gets digested, the nutrients get absorbed into our body, and then we excrete toxins and things that we don't need out of that food. But obviously with things that we've done to ourselves, in terms of nutrition. So when we're eating a lot of chemical things that are contained in food, like pesticides, or when we're eating things like dairy that we're not supposed to eat, because it's not, milk is for a calf, and is not for a human being. When it comes from a cow, for example, we only have milk in nature from our mother. Is only
Yes.
the process of humanity that ended up exploiting animals, to our advantage in terms of finding food. And I'm not criticizing people that do eat dairy, but what I'm saying is that our body is not equipped to digest it because we don't have the right enzymes to do that. Also, some of the arguments that we have around, you need milk for your calcium, or that you need meat for your proteins, these things are actually present in nature. So an elephant who's magnificent and majestic in size does not eat anything else apart from vegetables. So if
Yes.
if we needed meat for our proteins, then what about these big massive animals? They don't need,
Yes.
you know um
Yeah.
and also, when we start thinking about our teeth, our teeth are pretty flat. Herbivores
Mm.
teeth are flat. Carnivores
Right.
are fangs, like
Yes.
lions and tigers. So we were not meant to be eating flesh. So when we're introducing foods in our food chain that our body cannot digest, and it's not just our teeth, it's also our intestine. For example, if you look at herbivores, have a very long intestine because of the
Yes.
digestive process, and it is very
Yes.
slow. When it comes instead to animals that are carnivorous, they not only the teeth are like fangs, but the digestive tract is very slow to make
Very.
sure that the putrefying meat, the flesh,
Mm-hmm.
transitions
Right.
very quickly, so that the
Right.
bacteria that is already on the flesh is not going to
Mm-hmm.
the body of the animal that is eating it. So there's a lot of things that we can bring into this, to kind of flavor this picture. But what I'm saying is that essentially, when we're putting a lot of stuff into our body that our body does not need, or does not tolerate, like we got food intolerances and allergies
Mm-hmm.
and that, our body will create inflammation, and it will create just reactions that
Mm-hmm.
obviously end up being disease, illnesses, and conditions that we don't want. So when we start understanding really natural nutrition, which is all about, what I preach in my work, and understanding where we can get, not just nutrition, but is
Mm-hmm.
actually um, is when we're talking about natural nutrition, is the way that our body is in tune with it. We absorb nutrients a lot easier. We digest everything a lot easier. So our body is not inflamed. Our gut is healing and is processing the food properly. We get rid of
Mm-hmm.
toxicity very easily, and it means that we're not stagnating. We don't have leaky gut, where because we're not constipated. It means that toxins are not reabsorbed into our body.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things are contributing to us supporting our body, which is an amazing machine, to
Mm-hmm.
continually regenerate and heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I can tell you again, my personal experience in the past. I had a lot of processed foods, a lot of sugar, a lot of alcohol, like all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of things that were not particularly helpful. In particular, processed foods. I would go for McDonald's, KFC, and all these chains. And eating really fatty, fried, foods. I ended up
Mm-hmm.
pretty much disabled. I had so much inflammation in my body that I had carpal tunnel. I could not hold my phone to my ear. I worked in a call center, and I had to have adapted keyboards and mouse because I couldn't function properly. And uh,
Mm-hmm.
and, and I ended up in a job in London as a chief exec of a domestic violence charity, where everything was very stressful. I wasn't eating properly, and one day I just literally I woke up in hospital. I collapsed in the middle of a street. I don't realize that happened, but I just collapsed, and
Mm-hmm.
they took me to hospital. So for me, that was the calling. That I needed to do something to
Do
address.
something about it. Right.
And I went on a course, because I knew other friends of mine that had been on this naturopathy course, which was so inspirational and really a turnaround for me. But what I've learned in that process is that by eliminating the things that are not helpful to our body, and by putting in things that are really nourishing, and I'm not just talking about food, because there's also hydration. Sometimes where we can be deficient in certain vitamins and minerals, so we need to perhaps supplement, not always.
Mm-hmm.
We are also helping our detoxing systems, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
through wet, whether it is making sure that we go to the toilet regularly, whether it is through exercise, everything that moves our lymphatic
Mm-hmm.
system and promotes the purging of toxicity from our body can
Right.
transform, absolutely transform.
Mm-hmm.
So my inflammation completely went. Like I
Mm-hmm.
found that I was no longer in pain. That I was.
Mm-hmm.
I can do everything. I don't have any the pins and needles that I used to have. I don't have the headaches. I don't have the sinus problems that I had chronic sinus issues. Um, and probably the most important of all, which again is such a huge amount of people out there, as I wouldn't say even as a nation that we often hear on the news, but I think as a world population, we are a population that is getting heavier and fatter by the day because of
Yes.
the food that we put
Yes.
in. For me,
Yes.
in this process where I wasn't really focused on losing my weight. Yes, I wanted to lose weight because I was overweight and I needed to, but it wasn't my focus.
Mm-hmm.
My focus was about being
Right.
healthy because I was in pain and I wanted to heal myself. And,
Yes.
and as I went on that journey, weight loss was a side effect of eating healthy. So I didn't struggle.
Right.
I didn't have to go on crazy diets or try to to just deprive myself and go hungry, and all of these
Right.
things here. Just my body regulated itself, and I lost weight, and that is kind of normalized. So I'm not skinny, I'm not overweight, I'm the body size that I was meant to be. There's a lot of stuff out there as well about body image, and like you said, about how people judge you, and what people say about
Yes.
that's people can talk as much as you want. When you are fine with yourself and you feel amazing, then it doesn't matter.
Yes, it
It's just
doesn't
like,
matter.
that's true health. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as a health and wellness coach, now that you have probably had loads of clients that you've handled, what is the one common thing that you found all across countries and all across the races that you kind of dealt with, which which you found to be very shocking or amazing? That maybe something very common all across between all the people related to health and wellness.
um okay, I think that I think that the most common thing is the disconnect from nature. So as I mentioned earlier on, it's not just about the energy, but when I talk about natural nutrition, the things that are
Mm.
fundamental. Well, in fact, the very very base of natural nutrition is hydration. and
Right.
and and this is, our body is 70% made of water, our brain is 80% made of water, and
Yes.
yet still come across people that don't drink enough, or people that say, oh, I don't really like drinking. And scaringly, I also came across people that don't drink at all. Like, I'm not talking don't drink water, they don't drink anything, no tea, no coffee, no nothing, like literally nothing. And when I was newly qualified, this was
Mhm.
one of my first clients came to me exactly with this. And but I didn't find out about the lack of hydration. It was the issue that this client came to me with was migraines, really really bad migraines, and also very bad periods, so like 3 weeks out of 4, she would be
Mhm.
having a period,
Mhm.
and really really heavy.
Mhm.
And obviously, to the extent, that it would be debilitating from the pain, but also from, a practical point, because she would be flooding, her clothes with blood,
Mhm.
so very impractical and difficult to deal with. And as part of the assessment that I carry out, I ask a lot of questions around, your nutrition, your lifestyle, your hobbies, your medical history, the history of your family as well, because sometimes we inherit not just the illnesses but energy, sometimes is emotions, that we feel or that we take on from the people around us as well. And when you have this comprehensive picture, there's a lot, that I look into as well, that comes from Chinese medicine as well, and in Chinese medicine, there's this very strong belief that
Mhm.
disease becomes, it starts as an emotion, and that if
Right.
we deal with that emotion properly over time, it will take its
Right.
toll, and it will manifest in physical symptoms. They also
Right.
believe that every emotion lives in a specific organ. So we got, for example, loss and bereavement is in our lungs, worry is in our stomach, anger
Right.
in our liver, and so forth. So
Right.
if for example we are very angry in our life, and every day, we feel tense, and sometimes even small things can annoy us, and we end up exploding irrationally, sometimes
Mm.
that is indication of liver congestion. Okay, so
Right.
if we start doing things that help our liver detox, and
Mhm.
food that is nourishing, we can really overcome these difficulties, for example. But going back to the example that I was given, when it comes to, all of these things, that I was evaluating, with my assessment, and then kind of looking at where we needed to go for the solutions. As soon as I found out that my client was not drinking any water, when you think, yeah, my body just needs, as you the majority of people know these days, we need 2 liters of water as an adult, on average. Some people need more
Right.
than, obviously, if you live in a hot country, you need more than that. If you exercise a lot, you need more than 2 liters of water. And
Right. Right.
that's a basic, yeah, 2 liters of water.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's my recommendation to my clients. I said, your first step, on this journey, is to start
Mhm.
looking at what your body needs, and the first thing that you need to put in that you don't currently is water. And in
Right.
the first month, my client managed to go from 0 water
Mm-hmm.
to 1 liter of water. Okay, so
Okay.
this is not the full 2 liters, but it was just halfway there. And in
Yes.
1 month, the migraines went, and the period went back to normal with no medication. Okay,
Wow.
so this is the power of natural nutrition. When you start
Yes.
understanding how your body works and what it needs, and you put it in, and you remove the things
Mm-hmm.
the body doesn't, then the magic really happens, and it can be so quick, so quick and so simple.
Yes. So true. So, I mean, uh, I want to ask you. You are also a dad to two of the children. So, what has been your learning like, Fed? I mean, raising the kids up, we also teach them a lot of things, being the adults we are, and we are the caretakers, but we also learn a lot of things. So, what were the learnings that you had raising those children?
um, well, I think that what they taught me is certainly patience. The we need to have this these opportunities to teach our children, but to also give them time for them to learn at their own pace. Because,
Yes.
of course, as a dad, but also as a naturopath, I've always made sure that my children are healthy, that they're eating nutritious food. I cook everything from scratch. I don't process foods, and
Mhm.
uh, and of course, along the way, it's very difficult sometimes to navigate this world when you have schools providing meals that are not healthy, their friends, eating sweets, and advertising on television. They keep showing them, all these treats, that they can't have,
Yes.
and all of that. So as much as I had to I worry about their health, and I want them to be, the best version of themselves. I also have learned patience, because it's a journey, and it is a difficult journey sometimes for people, and children will learn by themselves what is right for them. So I do pass every day my knowledge, and obviously I try to help that journey. But if my kids have sweets from time to time, is not the end of the world. If they want to go out with their friends and they end up having a McDonald's, yeah, is not what they have on a daily basis. And I know that obviously I can do the work with them to understand what's in that food, and also how they can give the digestive system a rest after they had it, to
Yes.
make sure that they overcome things like that. But I also I have learned that by making things easy, like you were talking about,
Mhm.
how I can explain how easy this is, how if you look at things from a different angle, you can overcome things better in a quicker way if you break them down as well. So
Yes.
for example, I've got a challenge starting on Monday, which is my 5-day challenge to giving sugar the boot. And it's a free challenge, so I welcome anyone that is listening to come and join on the Naturally Fed page on Facebook. You'll see the information. But the point of that challenge is literally to look at something that can be so poisonous and difficult for our body, because sugar,
Mhm.
let's face it, is more addictive than heroin. And in fact, we have more people addicted to sugar than heroin.
Sugar.
But it's not
Yes.
regulated, it's not illegal, and it causes so many problems, not just obesity, but in
Yes.
many different areas of our health. And when you start looking at sugar addiction from a different angle, and you understand what it does, and but more importantly, how easy it is to break free from it, and what you can do instead to feel the same pleasure out of food by making better choices, because we still have lots of very, very, very sweet things that we can turn to without affecting our health. So this is the kind of stuff that I learn every day. It's just a connecting, especially with the children, because obviously they are my example here in the house, but also my clients and my followers, and just look at how you can break down a problem and just find easy solutions. And as they say, Rome was not built in a day, and
In a
neither is,
day.
yeah. So for you to improve your health and well-being, it's a journey that you need to go on a daily basis. Every time that you have your failures, or those stumbling blocks, where you think, oh gosh, I ended up eating something that I shouldn't have, and whatever, it's fine. Forgive yourself, allow yourself, yeah, and then you get back on it the following day. And
Yes.
like I said, there's so many different things that you can do. If anything, I want to share this. So what have I learned? I've learned that there's infinite, limitless choices to healing yourself and look after your health and well-being. Is not that prescription that you get from your GP, your doctor, when you go there with a problem and they give you a tablet. There's, you can look at your rest, you can look at your nutrition and all those things that I mentioned. There are so many different options to really look at what ultimately will work for you. And your route, your path, your choices can be totally different from everyone else. So those people that come
Yes.
to you and say, I've done this diet and I lost 10 kilos, great, it worked for them. It doesn't mean that if you eat the same stuff, you're going to lose 10
It will
kilos,
work for you.
because
Right.
we're all
Right.
individuals. Yeah. So, my gift, my advice is just experience the world, experience all these different opportunities that you have, and see what works for you, what truly makes a difference for you as an individual.
Right. So true. So before now, we move on to a lightning bolt round. One last question for you is, tell us a little about what is kombucha tea and how did you discover, what health condition were you facing at that time, and how did it help you?
Absolutely. So obviously, I am the gut guy, the label that I've been given, because of my work. But I guess that is exactly the journey, that instigated, all of this. And as I said, I ate a lot of rubbish food in the past. I put on weight, and I was really constipated. I had chronic conditions that all started from my very poor gut health. And as Aristotle said, disease starts in the gut. And equally, if you want to look at that, if disease starts in the gut, then health also starts in the gut. And in
In the
fact,
gut.
the microbiome that we have, so all the helpful bacteria that we have in our gut, and also all the neuroreceptors that we have, constantly communicate with our brain. But we also have a notion sometimes that our brain controls everything, but in fact we got three brains. Yeah, we got our brain up here, which is our wisdom, our knowledge, comes from here. We got a brain in our heart, so we also have
Yes.
neuroreceptors in our heart that
Yes.
communicate with our brain and also communicate
Yes.
with our gut. And
Gut.
ultimately, the gut is the third brain. So again, there's so many neuroreceptors that communicate. So when we are eating food that we're not there is not the foods that are not very good for us, perhaps we get constipated, we get grouchy and whatever, and suddenly then we also feel that heaviness, and we're not happy, we don't want to be doing things because our stomach is upset, but our mental health can be affected as well. Equally, if I'm not happy, like I said before, I was unhappy, so I was turning to food, so we got also the connection the other way around. So I
Right.
always, that for us to make the right decisions in regards to our health and well-being and in life as well, we need to always check what our three brains are telling us. So if we
Right.
decide that we are going to I don't know, to eat something, or if we want to go to a particular place, always kind of listen to these three brains. Yeah, so have I got the knowledge? What is my brain telling me? Yeah, so okay, yeah, so this food, is it good for me? Okay, so let's talk about McDonald's, yeah, because I've used that argument. I'm doing too much advertising for them, but never mind. Hopefully, it will serve the purpose of teaching a lesson. But we all know it's
Mhm.
fried food is not good for you. Yeah, so your brain is already telling you that's not right. Do I love it? Yeah, so the knowledge is telling me, my brain, my heart brain is saying, ooh, but I love McDonald's. I like the flavor, or I don't know what it
Yes.
is for some people, but
Yeah.
perhaps we love it there. Our gut,
Right.
oh, I'm hungry and I want it, yeah. But
Yes.
there's still a tiny bit of disconnect. So if your three brains are not in sync, yeah,
Right.
then it's a bad choice. Okay, that's the first step. Okay, so for me, it was kind of starting to learn that. I had a lot of gut health issues, of course, as I said, constipation and IBS, and a lot of inflammation. So it was one of the most important areas of my journey where I focused to really overcome, my health difficulties. And kombucha, I had a very, very small introduction to kombucha through friends of mine that told me about this drink that they wanted to brew. And I went on holiday with them to the States, and this was maybe 5 years ago. And when I got there in Miami, in the fridges they had loads of brands of kombucha. I never heard of the thing, and over there they had loads of different companies doing it. And I was just like, oh, what is this? And they told me it's fermented green tea with sugar. It's fermented with a bacterial culture, and basically, is this really amazing probiotic drink that is really helpful, for our gut. And I was like, bacteria? No, thank you. Just literally, I was not interested at all. As much as we do have a lot of other things, like if you like yogurt, that's fermented with bacteria.
Yes, yes.
So a majority of anyone that drinks beer, wine, or any other alcohol, the majority of them are fermented with bacteria.
Yes,
So
yes.
cheese cheese is a lot of people love cheese. Again, it's fermented. So we have a lot of fermented foods in our diet, but this for me was a new one. And I was like, I don't want it. I don't want to taste it. I don't like the idea of it. I'm probably going to taste horrible. So I felt with a lot of stuff about it. And I did have a couple of sips, and I was like, no, not for me. And I just left it there. And then when I started my naturopathy course, it came up again. And it was one, there was almost a whole section, talking about fermented foods and how good they are from a probiotic point of view. And I thought, do you know what? I thought this sounds too good for me not to drink it. So I went back to my friends that had started doing some brewing, and I asked if I could have the SCOBY, some of this culture, to make it myself. And I started brewing it in the house, and I didn't like it. First I tried it, I thought it was disgusting. Second time, I feel disgusting. So I thought, it's too good, and I want to drink it, but yet I don't like it. So let me do some research. I went online and I started looking at different recipes and experimenting. And one magical day, for me, this brew ended up tasting a little bit like cider. I know cider is not drunk everywhere around the world, but it's almost like a beer. Normally, it's made from apple cider.
Yes.
And it tastes, it's sort of vinegary, maybe a little bit, but it's fizzy, sweet, and it just as a blend, it really, really worked for me. And I thought, this I can drink 100%. And of course, then I practiced more that recipe. I learned that you can flavor it as well, so you can juices or fruit to give it just a variety for you to enjoy it. And I was making it in the house for me and the children, because obviously it was an alternative to having fizzy drinks, because this is still fizzy. And so we started enjoying it, and then with that I started taking it to my colleagues in the course that I was doing, and then through work, some people tasted it when I was taking bottles to work, and people started asking me, if I could brew a bottle for them, or if they could purchase one. And one of my friends ended up as putting a post on Facebook. Again, grateful to Rachel in this case, and she just said, I had the most amazing kombucha from Fed. And I just commented, just wait until I go commercial. And it was just a joke. But I had then a local business here in Swansea. Charlie, again, thank you very much for the amazing platform. But she got in touch with me and she said, are you going commercial? Because I've been looking for a local brewer. And I was like, yeah, but no idea. No idea, that this was going to take off. So I ended up buying some bottles and some very, very cheap labels that even when I think about the labels now, I just think, gosh, I can't even believe that someone bought my drinks at the time. But all the bottles that I filled and gave to the shop sold out very quickly. So I ended up brewing more, and then with that that energy to start taking samples to different shops, and it just took over from there. So now it just grew, and I'm not too sure. I was just trying to think. I think that I now have 21 flavors on the market, and stocking it in a lot of different shops, and trying to go international with it as well. So not quite there, but I'm sure that perhaps someone listening out there, distributor, might be interested, and
Right.
come and get in touch, and I'm sure the universe will provide, for me. But it's been an incredible journey from something that I found disgusting to something that I actually got addicted to, and ended up
Wow.
brewing, and also something that has been so healing. It's just been insane to hear the stories of people that perhaps have had similar gut issues as myself, and in particular, I can give you a couple of examples of people that have had IBS, so kind of diarrhea and constipation, for years and years and years, being totally sorted out within 2 weeks of drinking this drink, because all they needed was this helpful bacteria that perhaps they completely killed previously because of pesticides, or
Hmm.
helpful foods that they had in their diet. There's still an argument that you need to remove these things, but also when you start introducing, like I said, things that are nourishing,
Hmm.
biotics, fermented foods can be one of them. It's life changing, and I think that kombucha for me has the edge above other probiotics, because it has 16 different strains of helpful bacterial cultures. So it,
Hmm.
just like sometimes you do have a fermented food that might have a couple of different strains, this has got 16. So the more variety of helpful bacteria you got in your body, and the healthier it's going to be. And just an interesting fact as well, just for people to know, because I know some people still feel disgusted about bacteria and viruses, of course, that we have around us, and parasites and all of that. There's more of them in our body than our actual cells. So
Yes.
when we walk around, we got trillions and trillions of bacteria,
Yes.
viruses, and parasites, which actually outcount all the cells that make up our body. So
Right.
we are living in symbiosis, a little bit like a clownfish and an anemone. We live in symbiosis with our parasites, our bacteria, and
Right.
we need to keep it healthy and happy. So when you're putting
Right.
in these amazing, lovely, nourishing foods, you're going to kill all the bacteria that is unhelpful. Your gut is going to heal, and you're going to feel amazing, because your body is going to be able to heal and do what it's supposed to.
Right. Thank you so much, Fed. It's like awesome conversation going on. It can go on and on, but we need to move to our next round, which is the lightning bolt round. So quickly, let's do that.
Ready?
Okay. So, Fed, these are like, the answers can be either one word or one line answers. And it's a quick round and more light-hearted now. So, what's the difference between an ordinary and an award-winning health and wellness coach?
I say focus and energy to keep going.
Okay, wonderful. As a father, what would you teach your son if anyone bullies him in school for being overweight? What should he do?
They should join my 5 a day kick the sugar or boot the sugar challenge.
Okay. What's your idea of a romantic date with your partner?
Oh, a walk at sunset time on the beach.
Beautiful. One person who has inspired you the most in your life.
It has to be Tony Robbins.
Okay, wow. One person, sorry, which is the one book that you keep referring back to time and again, and that has changed your life?
So it's a Wayne Dyer, and it's called Your Erroneous Zones. It's
Beautiful, being Daya.
amazing.
I have to check it out. Your favorite Hollywood movie?
Oh, too many. Oh gosh, I'm totally blank. There are too many.
One, if you have to pick.
Ooh, Shawshank Redemption.
Okay, lovely movie. If you could fly anywhere for vacation right away, where would it be?
Oh, so many places. I'd say I would 100% go back to Barbados, Caribbean.
Okay, Barbados, Caribbean. Do you like adventure sports? If yes, then which one the most?
Ooh, I used to, and I used to do rock climbing, and I don't do it as a hobby, But if I am given the opportunity, I love to climb rocks or trees.
Rocks or trees? Okay, wonderful. So I'm assuming that you must be doing it with your children as well.
Yeah, yeah, a bit of
Great.
competitiveness there from time to time.
Yes. Your favorite junk food that you have converted to a healthy one with your creativity?
Oh my gosh! How many foods I've done this with. I think I'm going to say chocolate. Okay, so I went from I actually I didn't quite like chocolate growing up, but since turning vegan and turning to raw chocolate, yeah, I definitely would say chocolate is one of the ones that I really mastered.
Wow. So we need to get the recipe from you, how to convert it to healthy chocolate.
Yeah, yeah. Eating chocolate without the guilt. Amazing.
Yes, yes. One thing that you never get tired of doing.
Meeting people, meeting new people, learning from people.
Beautiful. And last one of your non-negotiable rituals that you just cannot do without every single day.
Practicing gratitude.
Lovely. Yes, I remember you saying this. So, one last message that you want to give out to everyone who's watching you right now and who want to be the best version of themselves but are struggling with it. So, what is that one message that you want to give out to them?
I would say, kind of summarizing what I said all along. You're not alone. You're loved, and you have millions of infinite opportunities to heal yourself and to feel amazing. So reach out, connect, and practice gratitude, because all of the rest will follow.
Thank you so much, Fed. It has been an inspiring and a motivating session. Thank you for being so honest and forthright and sharing with your heart. I could really feel it. I could feel goosebumps a lot of times, and I so much appreciate the honesty with which you came and you shared, and you inspired so many of them over there. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you over here.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story. And yeah, and obviously, if anyone wants to connect, I'm more than happy to meet new people, learn more, and to go new places together. So thank you very much, Anshu, for the opportunity here. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Namaste. Okay, people, great session. Another fantastic one where everything was shared straight from the heart. He came just for you guys so that you get inspired by all the difficulties that we all face in our lives and how we keep pushing forward. So now thank you to each and every one of you, all the audience who watch me every week, who come to this live or who watch this video later. Please do comment below and tell me how this show is helping you be the best version of yourself, because that would also help me keep giving my best to this show after show. And have a great night and a great week ahead, and be limitless. God bless. Bye bye, all of you.